I'm Al from Games Rip, and today we've got a brand new episode, and it is actually going to be Wolfenstein 3D. Now, you probably know it from original PC gaming, Wolfenstein 3D, but no, we've got something slightly different today. Just bear with me. In fact, we are going to be playing Wolfenstein 3D for the Game Boy Advance. Now, it is slightly different, I'm not going to lie. Well, actually, it's very much the same, but done slightly different, if you get what I mean. But let's take a look and let's see exactly what I'm actually gibbering on about. Yes, Alex, please, for the love of God, stop gibbering on and let's get on with the show. So this is it. This is 2002's release of, wait for it, Wolfenstein 3D for the Game Boy Advance. So as you might not expect, the actual Game Boy Advance is a direct port of the MS-DOS version. So this is great news, because let's face it, not many ports, or ever direct ports, they've usually been tinkered with, they're a little bit different, but this is a direct port of the MS-DOS version from the good old days, from the original early 90s, it's the MS-DOS version. So now the only difference from the actual PC version is it's the low resolution. I'm going to be honest, it's a low resolution, so it does look a lot more pixelated. Now the game obviously, being that it came from the early 90s, is a pixelated game anyway, but it's a lot more pixelated than you would have liked. Let's put it that way. The other thing you can obviously probably tell from right now is there's no background music. Obviously there's sound effects, but there is no background music to keep you going. And there's also no quick save, but that's not a big deal, because at the end of the day, at the end of every level, you get the chance to save your progress. So quick save is not really, we're not going to miss it, let's put it that way. Now the game has all the usual suspects when we come to weaponry, being the knife, the pistol, or what's the name of the pistol? German pistol. I'm not entirely sure, but there's a pistol, as well as a machine gun, and the glory good old days of the old Gatling gun. The Gatling gun, it let's put it this way, it causes a lot of damage if you can find it on the later stages. Now, if you've played Wolfenstein 3D before, you'll know that the enemies literally range from the dogs. The dogs they're actually quite challenging, in all fairness. They're not really easy. They are quite a pain in the ass. As well as the SS guards, even mutants. There's mutants in this game. Yes, there is. And also, the demon of everything himself, Hitler. He also stars in this game in a weird way. Let's put it this way. He ends up being a robot. Yeah. Now, obviously, the game originally got banned in Germany when the game was originally released due to Hitler and the violence against all of the German soldiers in the game. Let's not forget that. Due to this, and now eventually. Now, I believe this only happened a couple of years ago. It's now available in Germany. Yes, they can finally kill Hitler as well. Yeah, that's right. I know, crazy, isn't it? Anyway, now, the game obviously focuses on shooting. If you haven't played this game before, you will not know this, but the game does focus just clearly on first-person shooting. That's all it is. That's all it is. It's a shooter, and it's obviously one that spurned on a hell of a lot of games. Now, obviously, Doom came after this. Doom, another fantastic game. Now, obviously, make sure to check out the review of Doom on the Game Boy Advance that I've done on Games Re-Up. But yeah, they really did it. It spurred a lot of different games on from the early 90s. So the game it's shooter focused. There's no real puzzle elements here. Now, there are a few little bits, just being in the fact that you can get lost, because some of these levels, they're pretty damn massive, as well as sometimes just having to find keys just for a couple doors. That's really it. It's a plain old shooter. It's nothing really different here. But then, did we really expect it to be any different? No, because we know the original. We know what it's exactly there for. The game graphically, let's talk about graphics here. Now, even though it is a direct port of the PC version, or the MS-DOS version I should say, for all your purists out there, the graphics aren't great. Now, they've clearly lowered the resolution here for this to work, well, I say smoothly, for it to work okay-ishly? Is that even a word? Well, anyway, it works on the Game Boy Advance, because I think if they didn't alter the resolution, I don't think it would work that well at all on the Game Boy Advance. Now, if you compare this to something like Doom, where somehow they've made that look fantastic on the Game Boy Advance, this kind of looks just a bit shit, to be honest. It's just a bit shit. It all comes down. It kind of slaps at the Super Nintendo version of Doom, for example. I think even Wolfenstein for a little bit on the Super Nintendo, where they've lowered the resolution so badly, or so much, that you can't. The draw distance really has issues to the point where you can't even see into the distance, and you don't really know where the enemies are coming from. The only way you really know is when you get shot. Now, for me, that's not great when it comes to a first-person shooter, because you want to be able to see your enemies. But yeah, you do have that issue here, I'm gonna be honest. Now, the controls, they're also terrible, I'm gonna be honest. They have not done this well at all. So much so, things like hit detection. Now, stabbing people on this game is virtually impossible. So if you've got a knife, just don't even bother using it until you really have to, because it's really hard to hit anyone in this game with a knife. Just make sure you got a pistol, make sure you got plenty of ammo. It's really hard to aim as well. Even if you are using a pistol or a machine gun, you kind of got to do a bit of spray and praying here, because it's just not great. Now, it's such a sad thing here when you literally tap left or right and you move about a mile across the screen. There's no real decent aiming here. Even just steering through the levels just feels like you're driving a tank through partially dried cement. That is exactly how this game operates. It's a sad thing we're seeing here with this game. Now, the game boasts 66 levels, which, you know, for a lot of people, and for most people, in fact, is enough, I'd say. It's a couple days quick gaming here and there, sat on the toilet, play a bit of Wolfenstein on your Game Boy Advance, for example. And obviously, these levels, I should say, take across, well, they are across 6 different campaigns. Like I said, which is good enough for most. But now, sadly, with today's gamers who love their multiplayer, there is no multiplayer here, which is a shame. I think they could have done with it, and I think it would have worked quite well on the handheld, being that Doom, Duke Nukem, anything like that seems to work really well with multiplayer on Game Boy Advance. Nice little link cable, link up with your mates. I think that's the way to go. They clearly didn't. Now, I personally think this is only get it if you are a massive fan of id, or you've got to collect anything Game Boy Advance, to be honest, because this really is far from a polished port of the MS-DOS version. But don't get me wrong, I still love it. I don't think many people will, but I still do love it. Anyway, I've been Al from Games Re-Up. This has been Wolfenstein 3D for the Game Boy Advance. I'll leave you with a bit more from Wolfenstein 3D and those crazy Germans themselves, the SS. See you later.